That's the sound of a big deal. At Wayfair, that sound happens a lot. Dream sofa for half the price? Big deal. New dining table you've been eyeing for months? Big deal. Finally picking up those last few pieces and finishing that bedroom? Now that's a really big deal. Whatever your home needs, Wayfair has the selection, the savings, and over millions of 5-star reviews to back it up. Shop Wayfair.com today before someone else snags your big deal.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
M. The Media Project.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is a subdued intellectual Are We Here Yet podcast this week from the Culture Desk. We prefer to call this episode I'm Not Dead Yet. That's right. It's for the From the Culture Desk series here at the Are We Here Yet podcast. And tonight we're celebrating living poets with my good friend and at least in my little small world, this is the person I always run to find out what is going on, the best, the greatest in the world of living, breathing poets. Joshua Michael Stewart, of course, himself a living, breathing poet.
Yes. Thank you.
They have to hear you. It's an
Yes.
audio-oriented medium. So, first, let's just talk a little bit from your perspective, the why it's so important that we have this conversation.
I think it's important because I believe a lot of people are not even conscious that there is a contemporary poetry, a living poetry. Most people's experience of poetry begins and ends in either junior high or high school, where they read a lot of dead white guys. And it's poems that are sing-songy, that are like 100 years old, and things that they can't relate to and seems boring. And after they experience that in high school and maybe in a little in college, they don't bother with it any further. And I always found that the poetry that we read in high school always did a disservice to the art form, because if I was exposed to writers like Charles Simic or James Tate or Russell Edson back in high school, I probably would have been more interested in poetry even earlier than I did.
Right. And we also just have to celebrate artists who are making in the here and now, which is also something people don't think about often, that the fact that and I encourage all of you that are listening, right? If you find something in our conversation tonight, that you take away with that sparks your curiosity, right? It doesn't matter if they're, big names or not, right? There are no big names in American poetry.
Not really. I mean, comparative to everything. Yeah.
Right. Compared to other forms of entertainment. I'm telling you, get to your local poetry readings. It doesn't matter if it's good, bad, or otherwise. Get started, just experience it, right? Experiencing what living, breathing poetry is, because it's the living, breathing artist that is, we're of course tongue in cheek, but we have a serious side to this, and that is that we want to celebrate living artists, but also there is a magic to taking poetry, whether it's your poetry or somebody else is taking their poetry for you, in front of you, and bringing it to life, because it is meant to be performed, whether that's performed in your mind or in front of a small group of people. So what do you have for us?
Right. Well, since this is a introduction to contemporary poetry, I thought to first share a poem by Billy Collins. Billy Collins is probably one of the most famous living poets out there. He was the poet laureate of the United States from 2001 to 2003. All the poets that I'm going to read tonight, they all have numerous books. They're all living poets still writing today. You can find any of their books in your libraries or on Amazon or wherever you would buy books. So this first poem I will read is entitled Introduction to Poetry. I asked them to take a poem and hold it up to the light like a color slide, or press an ear against its hive. I say, drop a mouse into a poem and watch him probe his way out, or walk inside the poem's room and feel the walls for a light switch. I want them to water ski across the surface of a poem, waving at the author's name on the shore. But all they want to do is tie the poem to a chair with rope and torture a confession out of it. They begin beating it with a hose to find out what it really means.
Billy Collins. Has it really been 20 years since he was poet laureate?
Yeah, it has. And, I chose that poem, not just because it's called Introduction to Poetry, but it also, it talks about the attitude people have with poetry. I think, like any really good art form, like jazz or like wine, that, or modern art, when people say, oh, I don't like jazz, or I don't like modern art, or I don't like poetry, what they're really saying is, I don't understand it.
Mm-hmm. Well, right.
And, and I think a lot of people, and I don't know if this is an American thing or if it's a modern thing, but when people approach poetry, they don't know what to do with it because they're expecting they're expecting there to be a right answer. And there is no right answer. A lot of it is ambiguous. A lot of it is up for interpretation. I think a lot of people, they don't like poetry because they don't understand it and they don't know how to read poetry. They read it like they're trying to read a newspaper.
You're onto something there in that it's scary for people to realize they need to empower themselves. Like whatever you think is the interpretation is in fact the interpretation. And in fact, it's at the poet's great pleasure that you take away from it what is now uniquely your takeaway,
Right.
Like every human, every person can take away their own takeaway from that same body of work. I also think, I wonder too, also, our singular form of consumerism playing a role, in that much of what we perceive to be good art, it takes time, right? It's like a fine wine. It's like cheese. You acquire the capability to taste it, and that's not immediate pleasure in most cases. And so that becomes like, good art is art that I don't have to think about. The reason why I don't, poetry's okay, but it's like you're asking all these questions and like I don't want to have to think too hard when I'm relaxing.
Right.
And that's a cultural thing. That's something much deeper, that's harder to overcome. because because good poetry requires you, I think it requires you, the mind has to be active and really think.
Right.
But you also have to have that confidence again, that, whatever I interpret this to be is right. You have a poem where the child at the end of the poem paints a sun or draws a sun.
Right.
And it's not the right colors, quote unquote, right colors. And the teacher comments to the child. And I think the last line of the poem is something that I'm going to butcher this, so forgive me, but this is how it is in my world. This is how I see it.
Right. Right.
And
Exactly.
that's such a wonderful line in context.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Well, as a writer myself, some of my greatest joys is when people do come up to me and say their own interpretations of my work, and they see things in it that I never intended, but after they say it and I think about it, I'm like, shit, yeah, you're right. I once did an interview with someone, and they said, all your poems are about abandonment. And and I never even thought of that, but after, she said that and I was reading back from my work, I have to say, I think she's correct. If not all of it, at least a huge chunk of it is. So.
That's interesting. I don't think of them in terms of abandonment, but similar to what you're saying, like now that I think about it.
Right.
But there it is, right? It has to be at the pleasure of others to discover this stuff.
Right.
And the dialogue there amongst people.
And as much as your brain needs to be working, a lot of it is just visceral. Like you read a poem and there's a poem that, what I like to say is you read a poem and it's like a fucking horse kicked you right in the chest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't know exactly why, but that feeling is there.
So kick in the chest again, Uncle Josh.
Yeah. So speaking of that, the next poem I want to read is by a poet named Ada Limon, and she's probably the most famous newer poet that's around right now. She's a Mexican-American poet. She is the 24th poet laureate of the United States, which I think means she's the current poet laureate. And the poem I'm going to read from her is called Downhearted. 6 horses died in a tractor trailer fire. There, that's the hard part. I wanted to tell you straight away so we could grieve together. So many sad things. That's just one on a long recent list that loops and elongates in the chest, in the diaphragm, in the alveoli. What is it, they say, heartsick or downhearted? I picture her heart lying down on the floor of the torso, pulling up the blanket over its head, thinking this pain will go on forever, even though it won't. The heart is watching Lifetime movies and wishing and missing all the good parts of her that she has forgotten. The heart is so tired of beating herself up. She wants to stop it still, but also she wants the blood to return, wants to bring in the thrill and wind of the ride, the fast pull of life driving underneath her. What the heart wants her horses back.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's also intense. There's a lot of intense visions there, you know?
Right. And a lot of play on words, and this is a good example of how words can trigger images and push the poem along. There's a saying among us poets that it's the poem that writes itself. We never write a poem. The poem finds its own way through the writing.
That's almost like what we're assumed Michelangelo said, where, his job was simply to remove the parts of stone that were obfuscating
Right.
the sculpture underneath, right? Like it was there the whole time. We just needed to clean it off so you could see it,
Right. Right. Because like here she says, is it, heartsick or downhearted? And then she came up with that image of a heart literally laying on the floor.
Yeah.
Of the torso. And the word choice where she says, the heart is so tired of beating. And then the next line is herself up. So that play on beating.
And she beats this. I have no other word to use, and I'm not trying to play further on her words, but she really focuses on this, on the downhearted, the trodden heart, line after line after line, which kind of in and of itself gives it gravity, and
right.
Almost like that, what's the line again? Downhearted or...
what is it they say? Heartsick or downhearted? I picture a heart lying down on the floor of the torso.
It's funny because it's hot. To me, it's like high art poetry, and it's at the same time a country song.
Yeah.
It's rural. There's something I can't explain. I have no idea about the artist, but it feels rural to me, and I can't explain why. It just does.
Well, I mean, it has, it has the horses in a tractor trailer fire. That's the first line. So obviously it's not, Manhattan. And, it's, again, what I think the average person doesn't know is, when people first start writing poetry, and they haven't read any real contemporary poetry or not a lot of it, what do? They try, they're like, well, let's see. I know I read Robert Frost in high school and I read Shakespeare. So now I'm going to try to write a Shakespeare poem in 2025 or 26, whatever. And they try to use that old language. And here she's using simple language, and she's using images like Lifetime movies.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would be like, you can put Lifetime movies in a poem?
No.
The
thing that makes it roll for me is not so much the horses and the trailer, although that it should, I guess, but it's more, there's a frustration in this poem that feels like the kind of frustration that people feel in a rural place when they have this deep feeling that they might be missing something.
Right.
And the heartbreak of a place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, that's something that I wouldn't have triggered, but now that you say it, that makes a buttload of sense.
Now, the last time we had an allusion to horses, and then you had a horse-oriented poem. I hope this isn't a butt-oriented poem.
Actually,
this one's called...
Well, now this next poet is a African-American poet. His name is Yusuf Kamuyaka. He is also a Vietnam veteran. And He is the winner of the 1994 Pulitzer Prize in Poetry. Again, he has many, many books. He has one book that you would dig. He has an entire book that's just poems about Charlie Parker.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I might have that book. When was that published?
I couldn't tell you.
Oh, okay. We'll
Thank
table
you.
that for a moment. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. But this poem, this is from his book, The Pleasure Dome, New and Collected Poems. This is actually a prose poem. And to make it more complex for our listeners who aren't familiar with contemporary poetry, there's a newer form of poetry, newer meaning it probably started becoming Baudelaire from France really made it popular in I believe the 1890s. It's heavily influenced by the surrealists of the 1920s. But nowadays there are so many different types of prose poets. But they also have they're also even weirder than poets. And basically a prose poem is a poem that's not broken into lines. It looks like a block it looks like a paragraph. So it looks like that. I don't mean you can't even see it. So anyways, this prose poem is called Nude Interrogation. So it is about a butt. So here it is. Nude interrogation. Did you kill anyone over there? Angelica shifts her gaze from the Janis Joplin poster to the Jimi Hendrix, lifting the pale muslin blouse over her head. The black light deepened the blues when the needle drops into the first groove of All Along the Watchtower. I don't want to look at the floor. Did you kill anyone? Did you dig a hole, crawl inside, and wait for your target? Her miniskirt drops into a rainbow at her feet. Sandalwood incense hangs a slow comet of perfume over the room. I shake my head. She unhooks her bra and flings it against a bookcase made of plywood and cinder blocks. Did you use an M16, a hand grenade, a bayonet, or your own two strong hands, both thumbs pressing against that little bird in the throat? She stands with her left thumb hooked into the elastic of her sky blue panties. When she flicks off the black light, snowy hills rush up to the windows. Did you kill anyone over there? Are you right-handed or left-handed? Did you drop your gun afterwards? Did you kneel beside the corpse and turn it over? She's nude against the falling snow. Yes. The record spins like a bullseye on the far wall of Xanadu. Yes, I say. I was scared of the silence. The night was too big. And afterwards, I couldn't stop looking up at the sky.
Driven by data. Driven by technology. Driven by community development. Driven by the need to get results for your project. SM Graves Associates. Delivering real estate development to you, including project management and pre-development services with a keen focus on delivering community-oriented projects. We build profitable projects that respond to the needs of your neighborhood. Join the SMG family. Find us at smgravesassociates.com.
There it is to the dance that poetry does, right? He doesn't say,
Right.
I walked over to the other side of the room and I put a record on. He skips down and put the stylus into the whatever he says in the beginning there.
Yeah. The groove. Yeah.
Yeah, in the groove. Yeah.
Yeah. And that dance between what she's asking and what he's thinking. And,
that's also a good example of that kind of immediacy that you can get, which I think is particularly easy to do. It's not that the crafts person, it's not easy for them, but that poetry as a medium does really well, which is like you can immediately go from inside your head, outside your head.
yeah.
Inside one scene to outside to back into the scene. Because that's what he's kind of doing there. He's like that this is back and forth that's happening. It's just instantaneous. And all of these illusions that he's sensing and that he's creating in his own mind. And it happens with like total immediacy in the moment. I mean, they're in a moment and he's letting us be in that moment with them.
Right. Right. And like those small details kind of just put you there and make you, that does that, about where it's not just, I'm trying to find it. It's not just a bookcase, but a bookcase made of plywood and cinder blocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can see that. And then you have those lines that gut you, both thumbs pressing against that little bird in the throat. I mean, that is so perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of those poems where it's like, and you really don't even need to like overanalyze it. You can just feel it and like get it.
That's ultimately what the poet is trying to convey to us, the listener, isn't it?
Right.
Here's what I think and here's what I feel right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And, most poems, one thing that will separate poetry with, like a story is most stories are written as, in the past. I went to the store, I saw my friend Billy, and we did this and then we did that. Whereas in poetry is I'm at the store and Billy right now is doing this and that. And it that helps with putting you in that immediate moment. So the next poem I'm going to read is from a poet named Joy Harjo. She is a Native American poet, a member of the Muskogee Nation, and she too was a United States Poet Laureate from 2019 to 2022.
That's right.
And she's also a jazz saxophone player.
She is? Nope. I guess that makes sense with that. So I'm a fan of hers and have some of her work as well. And that also kind of makes sense. She's really beboppy.
Yeah.
That's scientific right there, by the way. Or English. That's the English terminology, beboppy.
Yeah, beboppy. So this is Perhaps the World Ends Here. The world begins at a kitchen table. No matter what, we must eat to live. The gifts of earth are brought and prepared, set on the table. So it has been since creation, and it will go on. We chase chickens or dogs away from it. Babies teethe at the corners. They scrape their knees under it. It is here that children are given instruction on what it means to be human. We make men at it. We make women. At this table, we gossip recall enemies and the ghost of lovers. Our dreams drink coffee with us as they put their arms around our children. They laugh with us at our poor, falling down selves, and as we put ourselves back together once again at the table. This table has been a house in the rain, an umbrella in the sun. Wars have begun and ended at this table. It is a place to hide in the shadow of terror, a place to celebrate the terrible victory. We have given birth on this table and have prepared our parents for burial here. At this table, we sing with joy, with sorrow. We pray of suffering and remorse. We give thanks. Perhaps the world will end at this kitchen table while we are laughing and crying, eating of the last sweet bite.
Oh, man.
And that is, you can call that like a contemporary prayer.
Yeah, the line that really hits me there, amongst many lines that hit me, is the idea of your dreams having a coffee with you while wrapping its arms around your children.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where does that come from?
Well, yeah, our dreams drink coffee with us as they put their arms around our children. Yeah, that is a great line.
She's a powerhouse for lines like that. Like I'm always interested in learning. Like it's about the craft in part for me. Like, how does somebody develop a line like that?
Right. A lot of trial and error and twisting and turning
but it's so beautiful too. If for those of us that have had children, it's a profound statement to make.
Right. So this next poem, I like. Sorry.
Stay with us. Heart attack.
Yeah, this is a good. This isn't a good example of, again, like what we when I first started reading contemporary poems and was reading the poems of Charles Simic and James Tate, my first reaction was like, you can write a poem about this? I was finding subject matter and things that I wasn't expecting to find in poetry. And this is a good example of you could literally make a poem out of anything. And this is a poem by a poet named Chen Chen, who's a Chinese-American poet, who's also a gay poet. And he actually went to Hampshire College. And this poem is called Winter. Big, smelly bowel movement this blue January morning. From the living room TV, a commercial from our TV company. We're the fastest, the only, meaning love us above all others. What makes poop more pungent on certain days? A question for science. From the living room TV, the powerful sight, law, bark, order, meaning love us or else. Years ago, a teacher said, never use the word poop in a poem. Today, the icy kiss of the toilet seat wakes me up. Today, I poop while my boyfriend shouts from the living room, did you hear that? Meaning the atomic scientists who say we are now 2.5 minutes to midnight. But still, I marvel whenever poop comes out as one true platonic tube. I am trying to be marvelous and to make my enemies throw up. I mean, if you shower with soap and eat well, maintaining consistent intestinal health, you should be ready for a rim job or other forms of anal play. My boyfriend and I are not platonic. From the TV, a white supremacist cites science, barks 2 sides to every, I mean, up the throat, out the mouth, the fastest, the only way the powerful will let go of their shit. I mean, my boyfriend and I are not into scat, but if you are, I hope your beloved produces the most fragrant, citrus shit. I mean, is shit more or less literal than poop? I mean, one winter night I got sick and pooped the bed, and he just got up with me, helped strip the sheets, carrying it all the way to the washer. I kept saying, I'm so sorry, shivering. I'm so sorry. But he said, what? Hey, I love you.
Well, as you know, I'm always down for a good poem, song, what have you, that's both about shit and love. So,
Yeah. it's a subject that I'm pretty sure like Frank Zappa would have wrote a song about.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I'm sure he has.
But, but all of those great elements of, the language play in that poem is great. And what probably makes, I don't know if it makes it greater, but it certainly makes it more interesting that it is about this. It's centered around a topic or a thing that, and the poem's not really about the thing, but I almost feel like he's using this thing because it's titillating, because it's forbidden.
Right.
And yet in between all of that, so he's hitting us with that feeling of forbidden, of like, he, at the same time, he's really hitting us hard with existential threat.
Right.
Deep and abiding love, that when we have, we'll do anything for the person that we love. I mean, there's a lot of these, like, really, some are wonderful, some are frightening, but these really heavy themes.
Right. Well, I think there's also a parallel of, as a poet, I'm pretty sure what got this poem rolling is that teacher saying, you can't put this in a poem. Yeah. And he's like, the fuck, I can't.
That's right.
That's what started it. But then there's this parallel of, everybody poops, but you can't talk about it. And just like, gay marriage is now, it's okay now, but don't talk about it. We don't want to see it. We don't want to hear it. So I think there's that parallel going on.
Yeah, right on. Well, let's do one more for the purposes of this I'm Not Dead Yet episode.
All right.
And maybe even read one of your own. And by the way, folks, Joshua Michael Stewart has more than just this handful of poems prepared for today. So we might give you a few bonus. If you go to our episode page, they'll be there for you. We might even put them up in writing. Who knows?
All right.
And we'll do it again sometime too. So we're going to have to pull some yet new ones out.
So for the last poem, I'm picking a poem by Lawrence Robb. And he was born in Pittsfield, Massachusetts and currently is a resident of Williamstown, Mass. He has written several collections. He's a winner of a Guggenheim. And this poem is called My Life Before I Knew It. I liked rainy days when you didn't have to go outside and play. At night, I'd tell my sister there were snakes under her bed. When I mowed the lawn, I imagined being famous, cautious and stubborn, unwilling to fail. I knew for certain what I didn't want to know. I hated to dance. I hated baseball and collected airplane cards instead. I learned to laugh at jokes I didn't get. The death of Christ moved me, but only at the end of Ben-Hur. I thought Henry Mancini was a great composer. My secret desire was to own a collie who would walk with me in the woods when the leaves were falling, and I was thinking about writing the stories that would make me famous. Sullen, overweight, melancholy. Writers didn't have to be good at sports. They stayed inside for long periods of time. They often wore glasses. But strangers were moved by what they accomplished and wrote them letters. One day, one of those strangers would introduce herself to me, and then the life I'd never been able to foresee would begin, and everything before I became myself would appear necessary to the rest of the story.
Cool.
So that is, as a writer, that's a sentiment I can relate to.
And it's good to relate.
Yes. So, should we end with one of my poems?
That's what I was saying earlier. We got to end with one of your poems. Because you're living, you're not dead yet.
Right. Hold on. I wasn't playing this. It just grabbed.
Okay. While Uncle Josh is looking for his poem, we will speculate that he should read the poem Yellow. It is one of his greatest poems and also the favorite color of many. Wait, what are you going to read?
Since we talked about it before, I'm going to read my poem Yellow, which is a prose poem in my book called Love Something.
Yes.
And here it is. I'm wearing my yellow robe, drinking coffee out of a yellow mug that has a rooster on it. When I take coffee into my mouth, I hold off from swallowing and let my tongue believe it's taking a luxurious bath. Traffic swishes down the street. People are busy being busy. For hours, I've been planning a trip to the end of the driveway to pick up the newspaper. Ravens bicker with each other out in the yard. The cats circle my chair, beg to be let out to murder. Each day we inch our way toward death. One day, without knowing it, we buy the clothes we'll be buried in. We smile for a camera that snaps the shot that'll be used for our obituary. I'll probably die in this robe. But until then, I'm going to eat some waffles that come in a box that's also yellow. Often, when children draw the sun, they'll either use a yellow or orange crayon. The older, more advanced children will use both. In kindergarten, There was a kid who drew his sons in big blood red circles. The teacher once asked him why he chose red for his sons, and he said, "This is how I see it. This is how it is in my world."
There it is. There's the line.
Yeah.
Well, Joshua Michael Stewart, thanks for joining another From the Culture Desk, our official I'm Not Dead Yet poetry
Series.
series within the
First
From the Culture
episode.
Desk series.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. This was fun.
This was fun. And we'll do more of this over the course of the next little while. For our listeners, you'll find this and all of our Are We Here Yet episodes, including everything we're doing from the Culture Desk at we're on Apple, Spotify, Libsyn, and you'll also find us at smgravesassociates.com/podcast, where we have a media page for yours truly's company. So we're everywhere. Once
And
again,
you can find my web page and where you can find my books at JoshuaMichaelStewartAuthor.com.
you heard it here first, and we hope you have a great evening, everybody.
SMG's Are We Here Yet podcast is a production of M the Media Project and SM Graves Associates. Learn more at smgravesassociates.com.